Time tracking laws can be a bit tricky to follow and understand. I mean, with so many abbreviations like DCAA, FLSA, EWTD, WTF is going on. Take out your notepads, this one's gonna be a doozy. Hi there, my name is Dimitri, and no matter whether your business is established in the USA or Europe, you probably have to keep a record of your employee work hours, breaks, overtime hours, time off, and overall maintain a clear record of all the work processes. In this video, we'll cover how Clockify can help your company stay on the right side of the law. Timekeeping is vital in different areas, including work regulations, labor laws, billing, project management, and compliance. It ensures fairness, accountability, and legal adherence. Here's what you need to know about the DCAA, FLSA, and EWTD. The Defense Contract Audit Agency, or DCAA, audits government contracts. They require accurate timekeeping records from the contractors to support cost reimbursement. The Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, establishes minimum wage, overtime pay, and record-keeping standards. Employers must maintain records of hours worked and wages paid. And finally, we have the European Working Time Directive, EWTD. They limit working hours and promote worker health and safety. To wrap this up, timekeeping is crucial for compliance with the Big Three. It ensures above all fairness, transparency, and adherence to legal obligations in a wide range of industries and work environments. With so many things to keep track of and compliant with, I think it's time for a little walkthrough. Now that the law is out of the way, we can move on to how Clockify can help you compensate your hourly employees without any hassle. So here's the opening page on Clockify. Let's say you've hired a software developer, Keith, who gets paid by the hour, and you want to invite him to your workspace. Your first step is to go to the Team tab and add member here. As you can see, you need to send an email with an invitation link that your new employee can accept. This invitation system ensures that all recorded data in your workspace is accessible to only the people you send an invite to. Once that's done, you'll see here that Clockify has registered Keith, but he hasn't joined yet. He needs to accept the invitation to begin clocking in his time. Whenever you add a new member, you can edit their role, add them to a group, or change their cost or billable rate. When assigning a role to an employee, it's important to remember that different roles have different levels of access. Leaving the roles section empty gives Keith minimum access. These roles ensure the information of all your employees in your workspace is kept safe, compliant, and supervised. If you remember, I mentioned Keith being an hourly paid employee. Here's how you can set up an hourly rate in Clockify. In your workspace settings, you need to activate a cost rate, which is found right here. Once this is activated, you can set a default value for all employees. But for specific cases, you do it this way. Head over to the Team tab, scroll on down to Keith, and set the cost rate to the hourly rate you have agreed on. Now, in every report, budget, and analysis, his cost rate will be included in the calculations. Congrats! You've enjoyed that your employee will be paid for every hour they track. There are two manager roles in Clockify, as you can see. The project manager is able to edit and see all of the time allocated to projects, which ensures that project-related tracking is regulated. The team manager can see all of the users they manage, as well as approve of or reject their timesheets and requested time off. That's pretty much all you need to know about the manager roles. Now we can move on to customizing your work weeks and capacity. Having a custom work week to cater to your labor laws is essential for compliance too. Here, in the workspace settings, you can set your company's working days. And then we'll scroll back up to the Team tab here. Now you can scroll down to the employee, click on these three dots, and then select Edit Profile. Look, we all know that entering info about ourselves is pretty tedious, but as an admin, you can edit and customize an employee's working days, capacity, and general info. We'll go over overtime when we cover expenses later on in the video. Remember, all of these features help strike a balance between productivity and adherence, fostering a harmonious and lawful workplace. You're almost done with the setup, cheers! Clockify has a lot of preset fields for organizing your work. You can make your own fields to make the app tailor-made for your region's labor laws and timekeeping needs. In the workspace settings, go to the custom fields section right here. When you create a new one, you're able to define additional info you want on record. Things such as project IDs, task-specific info, and the like. Adding a description gives your employees a reason to enter the info. Next, you're going to have to select what type of field it is, which basically means what kind of data your employees are entering. Whether it be numbers for mileage or a link to resources or attachments, choosing an appropriate field type makes sure the custom field you create caters to your specific needs. You also have custom user fields that you can make. Basically the same setup process. This is usually used for things like emergency contacts and any other user-specific info you might need. Under the placeholder, you can input a default value, and lastly, you can choose who can edit this field. To activate your fields and see them in the report and in the tracker, let's click and slide the field from available to active. You'll also notice that you can edit the field even when it's activated. Once all of this is done, if we go to the tracker, we can see under every entry is the new field that you've created. Now, kiosks make time tracking pretty easy. Your employees can clock in and out, log breaks, and record their time accurately using the designated kiosk device or devices. Head over to the workspace settings and activate kiosk. While we're here, let's activate breaks as well. After this, you'll see the kiosk tab pop up right here. When creating one, you'll have to give it a name and assign the employees who will be able to track time through the kiosk. A default project must be picked for which the timer will run for. Now, since we activated breaks earlier, you also have to set a default project for which the break will track. For even more security, you can set up a PIN password, which enables anyone who knows the universal PIN to clock in and out for anyone assigned to the kiosk. Once that's done, Clockify will generate a link for you, which you can put into any browser to launch the kiosk. Now, it's important to note that only admins can close the kiosk, and that closing the kiosk doesn't clock anybody out. So pay attention to notify employees to clock out before closing to ensure the most accurate time tracking. It's pretty important to set limits and boundaries in order to stay compliant with the information you're keeping track of. And that's what the Permissions tab is for. Here, in your workspace settings, you can see a plethora of options for who has access to what. Here, you can set who can create projects, assignments, clients, tasks, and tags. You can also set what information is visible to whom, as well as customize what regular users are able to access. With the Permissions tab, you make sure that all of your members are using the app securely, and with managers and admins, the information entered will always be supervised and in line. Clockify has time-off policies allowing you to efficiently manage leave balances and track holidays within your company. To start us off, let's head over to Workspace Settings. Activate Time Off, and then let's go to that tab. If we click on this cogwheel here, it'll drop down two managing options, one for holidays and one for policies. Let's set up a vacation policy together by first defining some aspects of the policy. We'll give it a name, set who has access to the vacation, whether someone needs to approve of it, and how many days in a year it'll automatically accrue. Let's say for this vacation, employees can have a negative balance, which means your employees can request time off even if they don't have any in their balance. By implementing time-off policies in Clockify, you gain a centralized approach to managing leave balances and tracking holidays. Awesome, you set everything up. Now we can move on to the time tracking methods and how they can help you stay compliant for all your timekeeping purposes. We'll start with Clockify's timer feature. This is a neat tool for making sure that you're compliant with labor regulations and accurately tracking the work hours of your hourly employees. Let's walk you through how to use the timer in Clockify. To start tracking time with the timer, employees can log into their Clockify accounts and navigate to the timer section. Once here, employees can select the project or task they were working on from the available options that you've created for them. They can then click on the Start button to begin the timer and record their work hours in real time. The timer will continue running until they click on the Stop button. Additionally, they can manually enter how long they've worked on something by clicking on this button next to the Start button. Once the work session is complete, employees can click on the Stop button to end the timer and finalize the time entry. By following these steps, your busy bees can effectively track their work hours by using the timer feature in Clockify. With the hourly employees settled, let's move on to your salaried workers and how Timesheet can make things a little easier. Navigate over to the Timesheet section, and here you'll see a table showing tracked hours and projects. In a nutshell, rows are activities and projects, columns are days. To start off, you can add the projects you work on here and include details and info about the activity. On the right-hand side over here, you can see that there is a tally for each activity tracked throughout the week. At the bottom of every column, you'll see the total hours worked for that day. And here's the week total, giving you all the relevant info needed to stay safe. Now, if there were any breaks or interruptions during the workday, employees can record the duration of these breaks within the timesheet, maintaining transparency in all of their time allocations. Employees can easily make adjustments to their timesheet entries as needed, ensuring accuracy and reflecting any changes in their work schedule. Once the specified time frame is complete, employees can review their timesheet to ensure all hours are accurately recorded before finalizing and submitting it for approval by a manager. Let's look at how Kiosk can streamline time tracking for your service employees. We already covered how to set up a kiosk, so let's go to the Kiosk page, copy the link of the kiosk, and paste it into any browser on a computer or mobile device. Welcome to your kiosk. Once the kiosk is open, your employees can select themselves on the screen, enter their PIN, if you set one up, and clock in with a single button. We activated breaks earlier on, so once the employee has clocked in, they can start a break or clock out. Their track time, overall hours for the week, and all breaks will show up on the left-hand side of the screen. When on a break, the timer will stop, and the employee's icon will turn to orange so that everybody sees that they're on a break. When they're done, they can log back in, stop the break, and the timer will start again. Alternatively, you can manually close a kiosk by logging in as admin and selecting Close Kiosk right here. Again, make sure everyone is logged out before closing because closing isn't clocking out. You can also go to Timesheet and Calendar, select an employee, and see that every time they clock in or out, a time entry is saved. Even their breaks are clocked. I'll cover reporting a little more in depth later, but for now, you get how Kiosk makes tracking a little easier. Now, what's a good work-life balance without those sweet days off? Requesting time off in Clockify is done pretty easily, and I'll show you how it looks for both employees and admins or managers. Let's log into Keith's account and head over to the time off section. With some days off in his balance, Keith can request time off with this button right here. Choose a time off policy, the date range, and you can even add a note. After that, click Submit. Once Keith has requested time off, his manager will be notified of his request. Now let's go into an admin's profile and see how approval looks like. As an admin or manager, you can approve, reject, or withdraw requests made. Having a manager approve time off ensures that your data will be kept compliant and that your employees won't go uncompensated for their hard work. That's pretty much all you need to know about requesting time off. Clockify's time off feature makes the leave management process a little easier by providing a centralized platform for employees to request time off and for managers to handle those requests efficiently. Now we'll go over expenses and how you can track them to ensure that you're keeping a record of where your money is going. To start us off, let's go and activate expenses in the workspace settings. The expense page lists all of the expenses and groups them by date. Let's create a new one by clicking here, and first choose the date when the expense happened, and then choose what project the expense was made on. Clockify provides you with some pre-made categories like meals and mileage. Plus, you can create your own, which we'll cover in a sec. After that, you can add the amount that was expensed. For something like a meal, you'll have to enter the total amount spent, but for mileage, you'll need to enter the number of miles traveled. You can add a note and edit whether an expense is billable or non-billable. Finally, you can attach a receipt as a PDF or image file. When we create the expense, it'll be calculated automatically by multiplying the category's unit price by the amount entered. Now the expense has been added, and you can see it in your list, with icons showing if it's billable and whether there's a receipt attached. You can always edit or delete an expense if a mistake was made, so don't worry. I mentioned creating your own categories, so let's create an expense to track overtime for our employees. First, let's click on the wheel here to manage categories and create one. Click on this button here and let's name it overtime. We'll set our unit price as $20 per hour. Once created, it'll show up in your expense category list here and will be available when recording expenses. You can also edit the category by clicking here, or archive it if it isn't being used anymore. Once archived, it won't be available to select as a category. Each employee can see and edit their own expenses, but as an admin, you have access to everyone's expenses by selecting their expense list here. Admins can edit and add expenses for someone by clicking Add Expense and then selecting the employee in the list here. Team managers, however, can only see the expenses of the users that they manage, and can only change them if allowed in the workspace settings. By tracking expenses in Clockify, you gain insight into project costs, can easily generate expense reports, and streamline the reimbursement process. Okay, we've covered the basics, how the time you track can help you stay compliant and transparent, and now I'll show you the ropes with reporting. Effective reporting is necessary for analyzing productivity and keeping your data and billable information transparent and lawful. We'll start off by mentioning the dashboard. All of your team members have a dashboard that's unique to them, and this chart here shows how much time was tracked. You can choose what info is shown here by choosing billability to see how much money you've earned, or projects, which is pretty self-explanatory. Moving on to the summary report. Much like the dashboard, this report is used mostly for taking all of the time entries in your workspace and grouping them by project, client, user, group, tag, or date. As you can see here, you can also change the data shown in the chart and display billability and projects. At the bottom of the page, you'll find a breakdown and a pie chart that shows you the summary of all entries grouped by a certain criteria. For more time-focused reports, deselect Show Amount. If you want more details, when you click on an item from the summary report, like username or project, the detailed report page will be opened with the matching filter applied. It's important to stay up to date with your team's daily attendance, which entails their presence, absence, overtime work, and some more stuff that we'll get into. Over here, click on the drop-down menu and pick Team Report. As you can see, there's a lot of data at first glance. But trust me, it's not that bad. Most of the data is separated by columns for user, date, start time, end time, break, work time, capacity, time off, and overtime. Here's the breakdown. The user column shows both full and limited users and also indicates all running timers. The date column shows the date when the user clocked in. Start and end times are displayed too. The break column gives the total duration of break entries for the day. Work contains the total work time for the day, which basically sums up all of the tracked time during the day. The capacity column provides the daily work capacity of each user, including time off hours. Overtime shows the difference between work and capacity, indicating how much time an employee worked over or under their capacity, excluding breaks. Time off shows how many hours a user is away. That wraps it up for attendance reporting. Here, you can clearly see when an employee has worked overtime, which is really important for keeping compliant in some legislations, so Clockify's got you covered. Clockify's reports have detailed filters which you can use to find the exact data you need. I'll start us off with date ranges. Whenever you want to take a closer look at what your team worked on during a specific period, you can click here to select some predefined time ranges, like today, this week, and last month. And you've also got these arrows here to quickly shift from the previous week or day to the next. Next, filters. You can filter any data in reports by team, client, project, task, tag, status, description, and any other custom fields we made earlier. To see the custom fields, you first need to select them here. If you can't select your custom field, it's because you need to deselect one that was automatically chosen. When you're done picking the info you want to be displayed, click here to apply. Now, if you're looking for entries that are missing some info, you can also filter by missing data and find entries without a client, project, task, or tag by selecting without under each selection. To remove a filter, click Clear Filters. We're almost done with reports, so let's talk about time rounding. Rounding time entries up or down to the nearest minute helps clean up your reports a little. When you turn on rounding in the report here, you can also change the rounding intervals. Rounding down, up, or to the nearest gets your reports looking clutter-free. Alright, we're done with reports. With all of your entries neatly arranged and organized, we can move on to the approval feature. If we head over to the workspace settings and activate approval, your employees will be able to submit their weekly and monthly timesheets as well as expenses for approval. Afterwards, an admin can review and approve of them for billing and payroll purposes. Once a timesheet is submitted, it will get the pending status, as it waits for approval for a manager or admin. Once approved, timesheets get locked and not even admins can change the time entries. In the approval page, you can see all pending timesheets, as well as the total time and who's the approval manager. As a manager, you can approve the requests from your team. But as an admin, you can remind the team managers through email to approve their team's timesheets. Look, we all forget some things. That's what reminders are for, right? For automatic reminders, we need to head over to the team page and go to the Reminders tab. Let's choose who needs the reminder, how many hours they need to log, and let's create it. Afterwards, the system will send them an email telling them that they haven't logged enough hours. When rejecting a request, you can enter a comment for the reason of rejection. The team member will get an email along with a comment added. Then they can change what they need to and submit the week again. Now, let's say that there was a mistake made and the approved timesheet needs to be edited again. So there's two ways you can go about this. You can either add more time entries and send them off for approval again, or you can withdraw the timesheet and make it editable again. To do this, let's click on Archived and go to the timesheet that needs fixing. When we click on Withdraw, you can see that if we go back to the timesheet, the withdrawn timesheet can be edited again. For audit purposes, every withdrawn request is permanently logged here. You can filter Archive to show just the withdrawn timesheets. When you open one, you can see who withdrew, when, and why. Now that everyone submitted their timesheets, let's run a time audit to see if any of the entries are missing a project or a task. Let's go back to the Reports page, choose Detailed, and then select Time Audit. You can also check if an entry is too short or too long. To prevent people tracking time without certain information, you can make some fields required in order to make a time entry. Let's go to your workspace settings and find Do Not Allow Saving Time Without. Now, Clockify won't let you make an entry if you don't have the required field. If someone forgot to track time or send the timesheet for approval, you can also check who has unsubmitted time. For users who just forgotten to submit, let's go to Approvals and then the Unsubmitted tab. All of the users with unapproved time will pop up here, and you can either remind them to submit, or you could submit the timesheet for the user like this. Now, for users who don't have any time, we go to the weekly report, group the report by user, filter the status to approved, and apply. Click here to show users without any time. The employees that pop up with 0 time means that they don't have any approved time. We mentioned time off earlier. Well, in order to stay compliant, you need to have a record kept of the time off balance. That's where balance history comes in. Let's say you want to check out why a user has a certain number of days off. Let's go to the time off section and then the balance tab. Go to the employee and then click history. Now, regular users can see their own balance and balance history. Admins can see balance for each person, as well as add or remove accrued days or hours. The balance history shows all of the time off requests, their status, and the changes made to the accrual. Details like what was changed, when, and by whom will always be shown. So we've got one more thing to cover for today, and then you're ready to keep in line no matter what. Scheduling lets you plan work in advance by showing you who's busy, when someone will have free space for a new project, and when projects start and end. First things first, let's go to your workspace settings and add scheduling there. Here you're going to find a projects and a team tab. They both show your team's assignments, but from different perspectives. In the projects tab, you can see all of the projects that you've scheduled in a specific time period. You can also see their total assigned hours and the milestones. Clicking on a project expands it and shows details like who's working on it, when, and how much. You can always search for a specific client or project in this search bar here. Over here you can choose different time periods. Now the Team tab shows the same data, only broken down by team members and their capacity. Clicking on a user expands the list and you can see their assignments in more detail. These are assignments. To create and schedule them, we'll first head over to the Projects page. Once we do this, we can head back over to the Scheduling tab and select Add Project. You'll see the project you've created pop up right here. To create an assignment, click Add Member here, and then a new pop-up screen will show up. You can define their assignment here by choosing how long the assignment will last, the start time, how many hours per day, and an additional note. When you click Create, the assignment will show up as a block right here. You can also create a new assignment by clicking on an open space and then filling in the info from there. Finally, you can edit assignments by clicking on them. You'll see that some blocks have a line above or below them. The red line above a project means that someone is overbooked, and an underline means the person is working on the assignment that day. Now let's talk capacity. There's 2 ways to set up someone's capacity. First, on the Teams tab here in Scheduling, you can change someone's capacity by clicking on these 3 dots. Alternatively, you can change their capacity as we discussed in the Team page, and then click on Edit Profile. When you assign projects to a member, based on their capacity, these blocks shown will give you details like 2 hours over or full. This info shows you whether someone is overbooked or if they have more time to take on other assignments. Remember that you can always shift the assignment period so that nothing overlaps. If you want to make sure that everyone is tracking their time on assignments correctly, you can check that out using the Scheduled versus Tracked feature. Here in the Scheduling page, you'll find this little chart button. Click on it and it'll redirect you to the attendance report. Choose a date range here, and then you can see here the scheduled hours for that period and the actual amount of time tracked. This way you can see whether your employees are following their work schedules or working a little too much. Here you can see how much time someone tracked compared to how much they were scheduled. If anyone worked overtime, you'll see it right here. And that's a wrap. We did it. Give yourself a pat on the back because you've made it to the end of this Clockify webinar on the very long topic of timekeeping laws. We hope that with Clockify's features, we made complying with timekeeping laws easier and a little more understandable. With these tools and features, you can ensure that your employees will be compensated, have a healthy work-life balance, and stay happy. If you need any help, be sure to check out the description for relevant links and our other Clockify videos. Thanks for watching. Stay ticking.